Ready to complete the Captain's Log exercise by familiarizing yourself with Elixir's interoperability with Erlang libraries? This video shows you how to use powerful Erlang libraries for randomness and C-style formatting, simplifying data generation for your log. Let's dive in and write some functional code, grab your starter file, and follow along. Howdy, I'm Kevin. In these videos, I combine my years of development experience and AI tools to help present comprehensive and idiomatic exorcism solutions. I prompt Copilot to add documentation and provide a starting solution. We'll critique its output and explain why it works or doesn't, and refactor it into clean, idiomatic Elixir code together. I'll include content from Notebook.lm for solid instructions like how it introduces the goals of Captain's Log.
First, we're going to master Elixir's own fantastic tools for generating random data. After that, we'll take it a step further and harness the incredible power of the Erlang ecosystem, which is the very foundation Elixir is built on. First up, generating a random planet. The challenge is picking just one item from a list. The idiomatic Elixir solution is Enum.random. It's perfect for plucking an element from any collection.
Implementing random planet class is fairly straightforward using the Enum.random function. The random function takes any enumerable whatsoever. In this case, we're giving it a list of the planetary classes. Copilot actually did a nice little touch here where it defined those planetary classes as a module constant to choose from. There's another function right alongside Enum.random that I find fairly handy, and it's called takeRandom. And you give it that same enumerable and specify that you want 3 of them. And then you'll get 3 random entries out of that list. Of course, that's not what this exercise is calling for. So this is a perfect.
With our planet chosen, we now need a starship, which means generating a registry number. Our challenge is to combine the NCC prefix with a random 4-digit number. The logic is simple. First, create a range, then use Enum.random again to pick one. Then, string interpolation neatly combines our prefix with that random number. All done.
Here's Copilot's implementation for the random ship registry number. What you're being exposed to here, again, is that Enum.random will take an enumerable, which includes ranges. Ranges are enumerables. So you can give it the range from 1,000 to 999, and then you'll get a random integer from there. It then converts that to a string and appends it to NCC. I think we could do better. I think this append and then having to specify the conversion is wordy. If we used interpolation instead, we could just write NCC and then get the random integer.
Every Captain's Log needs a date. Let's generate a random start date for ours. Here's the twist. Elixir doesn't have a built-in way to generate random floats. The answer lies in Erlang's standard library. We call rand.uniform to get a random float. We use that function to generate a star date between 41,000 and 42,000.
Generating a random star date is built upon the Erlang module, the uniform function. The uniform function will generate a random number between 0 inclusive up to 1 exclusive, which is why the instruction is written specifically from 41,000 to 42,000 exclusive. And Copilot provided a perfectly good answer. The range here between 42,000 and 41,000 is the 1,000 shown here. So we're going to take our 0 to 1, make that 0 to 1,000, and add it to 41,000. If you'd read the hint would say the answer should be done this way, where we take our 41,000 and we add to that a random number between 0 and 1 times this difference. Well, of course, that difference is the 1,000. It's just clearer, I think, in this case, what the range is composed to be. Now, it's really unfortunate, but you can't put the 1,000 in here. There is a version of uniform that'll take that, but then it will only take an integer, and then it returns integers, not floating point numbers. So I'm going to go with this second answer because it aligns with the hint, but the Copilot answer was just fine.
Directly calling Erlang functions like math format clearly signals you're using a core, pre-optimized Beam utility without unnecessary wrappers.
We have our star date, but it's way too precise. We need to format it. The goal is simple. Format our float to just 1 decimal place as a string. And again, Erlang has the perfect tool for the job, the io library.format function. It formats the number, but returns a char list. We just pipe that result to toString.
I first saw Copilot's solution to format stardate. I thought, wow, what is going on here? What did Copilot invent that we just flat out don't need? Because I had read the instructions, and the instructions said to format the start date, given a float. So I thought, well, we don't need that, a guard clause, because the only thing we're ever going to be given is floats. And then, of course, we don't need this because the only thing we're ever going to be given is floats. But actually, the tests will check to make sure that you're handling a stardate as a float, actually format it when it's something else. They expect you to return or raise an argument error with this text. This is not in the instructions anywhere, so this is going to trip up a lot of people as to why their code doesn't work. You're going to, following the instructions, if you produced this, I would think you were done. And then you wouldn't understand why the tests were failing. So you'd have to read the tests to find out that there is a clause that passes in stardate as an integer. And when you get an integer, you're supposed to return this argument error. All right, now that we know that, then it makes sense we have a version of stardate that accepts when it's a float, and we have another version of stardate that takes anything else and raises an error. This is how you do use IOLib to format a string, or a float, with one decimal place. Now, if you're familiar with IOLib format and you need fine-grained control over how this is formatted, that's wonderful. I think if you didn't know any of those things, you might be inclined to do this. Just float round stardate one decimal place is what this is saying, and put it in a string. But as this exercise is exposing you to the Erlang libraries that are available to you and to use the C-style formatting, this is the correct answer. Is there a functional concept that still feels murky, or an analogy I used that didn't quite click? Please ask me to clarify in the comments.
Let's wrap up by summarizing the essential takeaways from this exercise, the new tools you've just added to your Elixir belt. The guiding principles are straightforward. Use Elixir's expressive built-in functions like Enum.random whenever you can. Take advantage of how beautifully it handles ranges and other enumerables. And never, ever be afraid to tap into Erlang's huge, battle-tested standard library for more specialized jobs. It's all about leveraging the full power of the beam.
Log a like if this video helped you use Erlang libraries to solve the captain's log exercise. Don't let your learning be a random event. Subscribe to format your future for success. Explore the playlist to build your Elixir expertise one powerful function at a time. See you there.